Hello, Thunder Wizards. I want to talk to you today about my thoughts on how Odin became king of the gods. Why is that important? And before I get started on that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read from the Voluspa. And I'm going to show you some things within the mythology that I find incredibly interesting about Odin's origins. And I've talked about this before, but there's a hint in there about where Odin really came from, what his origins are, and how important it is to understand the connection between Odin, his origins, and the human race, and why we have made Odin king of the gods, why the gods see him as king of the gods, and why he is our example of how to be, the evolved humans. And I'm going to relate that to how to take all that knowledge and use it to create your ultimate reality, to change reality. Change reality into your highest expression. So before I do that, before I do anything else, I want to say thank you to my she's a subscriber on the Patreon channel, which is thunderwizard.com, and she is a producer, Grace Chandler at gracechandler.com. I want to thank her for her support of the channel. You can go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe, and you can get access to all of the shamanism courses. You can get access to the manifestation mastery course, and at higher levels you can work with me personally, and if you want to become a producer, you can give support to this channel so that I can do more of these videos. All right, so, and of course subscribe, hit the bell button, hit these links up here because they're important, both of them, the courses.thunderwizard.com, all of my books, DVDs, streaming video courses, and services like astrology and rune readings and certifications and all those good things. All right, now let's get to some fun. So what got me started on this was one of the comments I most recently got on my channel, which I want to share with you. It's for another video that I have about the 5 tools to master the matrix. Be quiet, I'm talking. 5 rules to master the matrix. I won't get too into it, but in those videos where I talk about mastering the matrix, which you can see at neo.thunderwizard.com, look, this world that we live in, this 3-dimensional world, is a hologram. It's a holodeck. And in my experience, it is a generator which manifests your intentions, both conscious and unconscious. And, what you set your intention at is what, and I'm learning this, oh my God, am I learning this? What you set your intention at is what comes up. I'm saying it a little differently than your average law of attraction, which says whatever you're feeling sets the vibration. There's some truth to that, so don't get me wrong. But the universe, in my experience, is far more interested in your conscious intentions and your actions, not your feelings. But your conscious intentions and your actions, which include your beliefs, will determine your experience. Okay, so bear in mind this person says, because obviously I say in this video, the 5 rules to master the matrix, I talk about how the first thing you need to do is to understand that the universe, the matrix, responds negatively to your fearful actions and positively to your fearless actions. And so I talk about how we must take full responsibility for everything that happens to us. And so that's a huge theme. That is a basic fundamental assumption, that if you take full responsibility for everything in your world, then you can change your reality, morph it around. Um, anyway, um, I want to get into some personal stuff, but I'm not going to do it in this video. Um, things have taken another flip, and I'm not going to say anything until more information comes my way. But anyway, so this individual is talking about that. Obviously, you know, this is one of the things when people leave comments, it really annoys me that they don't reference what they're commenting about. They're in the middle of watching it, they get stimulated, and they just barf out a response, and I have to read it and figure out, now what did I say that they're responding to? You know, I talk for hours and people throw out, you know. So he's doing it here. He says, why would one choose to be born with childhood cancer or famine or war? Why would one be born to be Stalin or Hitler? This concept makes no sense. So argument there is that he's trying to make the argument that we're not responsible, that there are forces that are stronger than us that are victimizing us, because he's focusing on victims. Why would one choose to be born with childhood cancer? I'm looking at his picture. He looks like he's a middle-aged guy. I have a serious doubt that he was born with childhood cancer. He looks like a white guy. He looks like, I can't tell if he's educated or not, but he obviously was not born in a third world country in famine or war. I could be wrong, but just looking at that, you know, this is what I mean. People, they go to the extreme of talking about, why would somebody choose to be born with childhood cancer or live in a third world country? That guy, none of that happened to this guy. So, you know, talk from your experience, have a little bit of balls and talk about yourself. Using extreme examples of people who've gone through tremendous hardships to bolster your own victimhood is really weak, man. It's just a really weak way to do things, and it's clear projection. The other thing is that's his projection. What is projection? Please Google the term psychological projection. Everything is psychological projection. Once again, I am experiencing that I do this as well. One day I'll get it right. But he obviously is projecting himself as this childhood victim. And maybe he went through some stuff as a kid, I don't know. And then he says, why would one, I guess he forgot the word choose. Why would one choose to be born as a Stalin or a Hitler? So what does that mean? Is he saying that those people were forced to be born and become those things? That would fit really well with the whole biblical narrative of, you know, God creating the world and then, you know, judging human beings for all the mistakes that they make, and the devil must have spawned these people. So in other words, Stalin and Hitler aren't responsible for all the evil that they did. Again, this is a projection. So I don't know the guy, but from right there, it tells me he's got a lot of guilt about his actions, and, you know, that he was forced to be a Stalin or a Hitler in his life. So the concept that makes no sense to him is the idea that we are fully responsible for our incarnations and everything that we do and say. And then I had a response, which I won't go into, which basically said, look, you got two choices. You can either choose to be a victim or you can choose to be a volunteer. Pick one. Now, he doubles down, and he chooses to stay a victim. And he says in his next comment, blah, 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 mine is simply observation void of delusion and fantasy. Well, forgive me for saying so, but none of us can make these kinds of statements about ourselves. The best that somebody can say is, this is my observation, and to the best of my ability, I am not deluded. If I am deluded, I'm not aware of it. Because if you are coming from delusion and fantasy, you're not aware of it. I say you have some delusion because you project yourself as this childhood victim, even though obviously you did not have childhood cancer. You relate, and so much so you'll use them and throw them like human shields in front of you to make your point that we're victims. See, look at these horrible kids. That's projection. And that is a delusion. And that is also a fantasy. Now, he's making the assertion that I have a fantasy about being able to take responsibility and create my own reality. So he says, mine is simply observation void of delusion and fantasy. Fact. People suffer. So in your view, and there's no there's no comma there or anything like that. I did type in furiously away. People suffer. So in your view, it's voluntary. Yes. Fact. Some humans are evil. So again, in your view, is that voluntary? I mean, do you hear that? What you're saying is that humans are evil, and so because some humans are evil, what they were forced to be that way, and so what the victims are real humans. I mean, do you see that? Anyway, so he goes on to make this whole thing about it's certainly not up to us. Human existence is not up to us. You simply become, and where and when you become is a statistical anomaly. This is not a video game. It is an experiment by others. Well, who are the others? So he's talking about his observation has no delusion and fantasy. Well, there's obviously some fantasy about who the others are, because you're either going to go into religion there, or you're going to go into some conspiracy theory or something like that. And you're making a separation between yourself as a real human and some of these other people who are formed and made. I mean, so anyway, this got me thinking, because it's just, if you choose to be a victim, that is what you're going to create. If you choose to make the assumption that you are a victim of circumstance and you simply observe the world from that assumption, then you will have all of the information necessary to confirmation bias that solution, that you are a victim. Because look what happens to these poor kids. Look what happened there. Look at Stalin. Look at Hitler. Look at that. I mean, obviously, we aren't in control. And then my next question to you is, which universe do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a universe where you are a victim? Or do you want to live in a universe where you have the ability to take responsibility and change your existence? And you'd be surprised. I mean, people will hold on to the victim mentality. They'll fight for it. And so I asked him, what's more important to you? Do you want to win an argument with me, or do you want to be happy? Because if you want to win an argument, you can definitely find all of the conclusions to, prove yourself right through your experience and through your reasoning that you're a victim and we can't control things. Or do you want to learn what I've experienced, which is that I have the ability to change my reality? Do you want to learn from that experience and make yourself happy, or do you want to be right? I'd rather be happy than right most of the time. Most of the time, I'd rather be happy than right. So this got me thinking about Odin, because Odin typifies that. Odin completely, totally died to himself, because the only way that you can evolve is if you are willing to analyze and look at yourself. Look at your mistakes. Look at your unconscious projection. Look at the actions that you take based out of fear and based out of identifying with your limitations. Then, if you want to go beyond that, then you've got to be able to see your perfection, which you may not see yourself as, and take the necessary action of self-analysis and change of behavior, change of attitude, change of assumption and belief. Belief is an action. Your assumption about what you believe about the universe is an action. Choosing to continue to justify to yourself why you are a victim is an action. It is a choice. Choices are actions. I'm underlying that because, again, I have a thing, where I want to go against the law of attraction that says how you feel creates a vibration. I don't care so much about how you feel as about the actions that you take. You could be looking me in the face and be hating my guts, but if you treat me with respect and with kindness, I'm going to appreciate that more so than whatever you're thinking and feeling. Get me? All right. So today, let's get past all that. I want to take a look at the Poetic Edda, the Voluspa specifically. And I'm going to talk you through some really important stuff about Odin, where he came from, and you're going to see how this applies to human beings because it teaches us about human beings. So we need to understand that dwarves, what dwarves are, the essence of dwarves, what they are, how are they associated with evolution, and how are they associated with human evolution. So before I start throwing out my assumptions and my beliefs, which you're going to pull your hair out, unless you're like me, and go, what the hell is he talking about? Let's just go ahead and read it. So I'm going to read the Voluspa from the beginning, and I'm going to stop at some important things along the line here. So the Voluspa, which is the speech of the staff carrier woman, the speech of the seeress. She says, "Hear me, all ye holy kindred, greater and lesser sons of Heimdall. You wish me to tell the ancient tales, O father of seers, the oldest I know. I remember giants born in the foretime, they who long ago nurtured me. 9 worlds I remember, 9 trees of life, before this world tree grew from the ground. This was the first of eons, when Ymir built. There was no soil, no sea, no waves, earth was not, nor heaven, gaping abyss alone, no growth. Until Bur's sons raised the tables, they who had power to fashion Midgard, sun shone from the south on the stones of the court, then grew green grass and fertile soil. The sun bore south together with moon, on her right hand was the heaven's door. Sun knew not what hall she had. Stars knew not their places yet. Moon knew not his power." So the sun is representative of the soul. In the beginning of the universe, what she's saying is the sun did not know what it was yet. The soul. Human souls. The soul did not know what it was yet. If you want to say God did not know what he, she, it, or they were yet. The sun bore south together with moon, on her right hand was heaven's door. Sun knew not what hall she had. Stars knew not their places yet. Stars represent deities, celestial deities, specifically celestial deities. Stars knew not their places yet. Moon knew not his power. Now, that's interesting because the sun, we associate the sun with power. In fact, the sun represents not only the soul, but represents the king and the queen, the source of power. And yet, first thing they say is, moon knew not his power. Moon is the modern English word for mon. Mon is the word for both moon, mind, and human. Human beings were moon. The mind and the moon are the same thing. The moon reflects the light of the sun. The mind reflects the light of the soul. The soul, the word for soul is S-O-U-L. And we have a rune S-A-W-U-L, which is the rune of Saul, which is the sun, the soul. The sun is the soul is the sun, same thing. Moon knew not his power, mind. The power of your meditative mind is unbelievable. And so these things, the Aesir did not know who they were yet. Because the gods were just being born. It says when Ymir built, Ymir was just the first giant that from which all things are created. Bur's sons raised the table, so just the beginning of the gods were just beginning to be brought into existence. They who had power to fashion Midgard, where we live. And then, anyway, Moon knew not his power. Then we go from the stars not knowing their places yet and the moon not knowing its power to the mighty. That's another word for the Aesir, the mighty, the celestial deities. The mighty drew together to their judgment seats all holy gods to hold council. They named night and moon phases, separated morn from noon, dusk and evening to tell the years. So we're watching now consciousness is starting to coalesce in the universe, going from this place of chaos and darkness, and then conscious starts to coalesce. So first the stars were formed, but they didn't know who they were yet. The sun didn't know, what her hall was, and the moon didn't know his power yet. The soul and the mind, they were in the universe, but they really hadn't coalesced and figured out what they were. The Aesir met on the Ida sward, timbered lofty courts and altars. They founded forges, smithied gold, fashioned tongs, and tempered tools. Gold table they joyfully played in the court, lacked not abundance of gold, until there came from the giant's home 3 very immoderate giant maids, which most of us think is the Norns. Time. So now time and space-time starts coming together. Space-time starts coming together when consciousness starts to figure itself out. The Aesir start to come together and work together and create. And before nothing really knew what it was. Now consciousness in the universe is starting to figure itself out. And when that happens, from that emerge the weavers of space-time, which are the Norns, the 3 fates, past, present, and future. And the 3 fates present, which her name is the immediate ever present now. She starts to weave, and from her weaving the present moment, she creates the past. The past then determines the debt that must be paid in the future. And the future is called debt and origins. And so ever present now, origins and debt. I won't get into that, but every time you make a choice, like choose to believe that you're a victim, you've made a choice which is now woven into the past, which then creates a future. If you see yourself as being a victim, you create a past story, which then determines in the future you will experience being a victim. Just for one example. Verse 9, the mighty drew to their judgment seats all holy gods to hold council. Who should fashion a host of dwarves? So when the gods come together, the highest consciousness comes together and coalesces, the first thing that they choose to do is create dwarves. And they create dwarves from the body of Ymir that's torn apart, the blood of Ymir, and the limbs and his limbs. And the blood would be life force energy, the ambient life force energy in the world around us. Consciousness in the form of the highest consciousness starts to take that and to form that life force energy into dwarves. And then we start talking about the different dwarves that are here. We talk about there was Force Sucker, master of dwarves, as Durin knows. There were fashioned many humanoid dwarves from the earth. There were fashioned many humanoid dwarves. Humans have not been created yet. But there are these humanoid dwarf beings. So humanoid, meaning, not human, but sort of like the cast, the mold from which humans will be limited to. Dwarves represent the physical humanoid aspects of being human, which means if you're a human being, it means that you have a dwarf nature that sets the limitation for you to be a human, not to be a man, which would be the mind, which is what we are. When we call somebody mankind, man, we are saying divine mind, the reflective mind of the soul. We are walking around in these dwarf bodies. In fact, in another myth, I forget the name of it. Some of you have to know what I'm talking about. Anyway, one of them becomes there are two brothers. One becomes a dragon, and the other one becomes a hero. The hero is a human. The dragon is a dwarf. They're brothers. What does that tell you? It tells you that one of them operates from his divine mind, therefore he is a man, and the other one operates from his dwarf nature, which is his instinctual emotional drives, and he becomes a dragon. In fact, the Aeshelmer, this thing, according to that myth, was created in order to fend off the dragon, or he had stolen it. The dragon had stolen this, which this represents the ability to fight off corruption, negativity, the lower vibration of yourself. That's what this symbol is all about. And this was the dragon was keeping it secret, meaning when you're operating from your less than highest awareness, you're hiding this power that your mind can use to free you. Got me? All right. So there was, and then we have wax and wane, north and south, east and west. These are dwarves. So the directions are dwarves. They're pretty powerful. All thief. That's the first one. Now the one thing you'll find about dwarves is as you go further along, you start to hear more human, emotional, psychological characteristics. First one is all thief. Second one is coma. So wax and wane, north and south, east and west, all thief, coma, meaning comatose. And then, so let's stop right there. So the first two dwarves that have any connection to any human-like, humanoid aspects, the first one is all thief. So what does a thief do? A thief is operating from, he steals from other people in order to meet his needs. And why does a thief do that? Because he's a victim, because he's operating, he's like a snake. Snakes go around and steal eggs, and he's a predator. He's not thinking about other people. It's very much like a giant. He's an all thief. Thieves operate from the assumption that they will not get what they need, so they have to steal it from somebody else. So this is the lowest vibrational awareness, is being a thief, a predator. The next one is coma. Comatose. The unconscious. I talk about the unconscious all the time. Not operating from full awareness, but being unaware of your motivations. Thieves are also very unconscious and unaware of their motivations. Then there's ones that are apparently untranslatable. Biffer, Boffer, Bomber, Nore, Anar, Ai, Mead, Witness, Path, Magus, Wind Elf, Thrain, Yearning, Longing, Wisdom, Color, Corpse, and New Advice. So now what you're seeing is the evolution of psychological, emotional states of being. Just note that. Watch as it keeps going. So we go from mead witness. Mead represents the soma, the drink of eternal life, the nectar of immortality, which is necessary for awareness and consciousness. The moon is made of the nectar of immortality. Mead witness. Oh, I've become aware of my mind. Path. You find a path. You become a magus. You become a wind elf, whatever that means. And then you have all of these human emotions: yearning, longing, wisdom, color. That means the ability to differentiate. You know, that's blue, that's green. So now the intellect is coming into focus. Corpse and new advice. Corpse, why would corpse be, what's the benefit of corpse? You have to die to yourself. And what happens when you die to yourself? You evolve and you get new advice. Dying to old things and new advice. Slice and wedge. Discovery. Hope and will. Rooster. Speedy, antlered, fame, and lone. So do you see the evolution here? It goes from just these forces like north, south, east, and west, and then consciousness starts to come into existence, and you have the purely reptilian brainstem of thief and comatose. And then you become aware of your mind in mead witness, and then you start to find your path, you find your magic. Then you experience the emotions of yearning and longing, and you gain wisdom from your yearning and your longing. Yearning and longing would be emotions that victims have. You know, I want this, I want that, but we all have it, and you get wisdom from that yearning and that longing. And then you differentiate, and then you die to yourself and you become aware on a greater level. Then you discovery. And then you find hope and will. Pride, rooster represents pride. Speedy, antlered, fame, and lone. Once you get to a path where you've found, real awareness, it's a lonely path. This is the dwarves. This is the essence of human emotional psychological experience. Keeping going. So it is time the dwarves of Dvalin's kin be named up to Lofar the Handed. That's not there for no reason. The Handed. Human beings are, among the only animals that have this opposable thumb that allow us to create and make. We're talking about being human. So Lofar the Handed. But they who have struggled from the halls They who have struggled from the hall's stone foundation up to the ramparts. And then we have more. So once we get to the true humanity, Lofar the Handed, then we have even higher developed entities. Clarifier, Cycler, Shaver, Channel, Sanctuary of Youth, and Oak Shield Bearer. Fugitive, Frost, Finder, and Illusion. Now we're getting into some deeper psychological, more intense, more complicated, more complex human experiences as you grow. While ages endure, the long, long reach of Lofar's forebears shall be remembered. Okay, so we just went through this whole throng, and in another translation here, see if I can find it. In another translation, it says, trying to find, they say throng a couple of different times, and I'm trying to use that to make a point here, but okay, I'm not finding what I was looking for. Anyway, so, and then we have something very strange happens. Now, maybe there's something missing. Maybe there's a section missing that would have explained it. But if I just take it the way it is, the way it's written, the context is going to make a very interesting assertion, which some of you may know what I'm about to say, if you've read my books and heard me talk about it before. So, Clarifier, Shaver, Channel, Sanctuary of Youth, and Oak Shield Bear, Fugitive Frost, Finder, and Illusion. While ages endure, the long, long reach of Lofar's forebears shall be remembered. From one such train drew forth in the hall 3 Aesir, powerful, compassionate. Those 3 Aesir are Odin, Vili, and Ve. In the other translation it says, let's see, what verse is that? The verse on that one is 17, so 17 on this one is then, so it says Alf and Ingvi, Aikenshialdi, Oakenshield, Fjaller, Frosty, Filth, and Ginnar, so for all time shall the tale be known, the list of all the forebears of Lofar. Then from the throng did 3 come forth. The throng of what? If we take it in context, it's saying from the throng that we just talked about. It means from the throng of dwarves came 3 from the home of the gods, the mighty and the gracious. That's one. Go back to the other translation here, which says, while ages endure, the long, long reach of Lofar's forebears, the dwarves, shall be remembered. From one such train drew forth in the hall 3 Aesir powerful. From one such train of what? Dwarves. We've gone through the evolution, the psychological, emotional evolution of the humanoid race of dwarves. And at the end of that evolution, when the psychological, emotional, human-like experience, when it goes through full evolution, the end result is Odin, Vili, and Ve. Then Odin, Vili, and Ve find humans. From one such train drew forth in the hall 3 Aesir, powerful, compassionate. They found on the earth the ash and the alder, of little power, indeterminate. Odin gave them spirit. Honor, discernment. Loder gave them blood and divine light. Let's see what the other translation here says. That's what, 17. Then from the throng of dwarves did 3 come forth from the home of the gods, the mighty and gracious. 2 without fate on the land they found, Ash and Embla, empty of might. Soul they had not, sense they had not, heat nor motion nor goodly hue. Soul gave Odin, sense gave Honir, heat gave Lothir, the goodly hue. So here we have 2 things that very clearly state that Odin is intricately connected to the fate and the makeup of human beings. First, because the gods, the Aesir, the celestial deities, take life force energy, and from it they start creating humanoid dwarves, who then, as they evolve, start to have more human, psychological, emotional experiences, which get more and more complex and get more and more refined and get more and more evolved, to the point in which at the end of that 3 of them come forth to create human beings. Let's read the whole thing again. Maybe I'm maybe I'm imposing on the text here. Let's just read it from the beginning, and then you tell me. Tell me if I'm on the right track or not. Let's start again from the beginning. The mighty drew to their judgment seats. This is verse 6. The mighty drew to their judgment seats all holy gods to hold council. They named night and moon phases, separated morn from noon, dusk and evening to tell the years. The Aesir met on the Ida sward, timbered lofty courts and altars. They founded forges, smithied gold, fashioned tongs and tempered tools. Gold table they joyfully played in the court, lacked not abundance of gold, until there came from the giant's home 3 very immoderate giant maids. Time, fate, the web of weird. The mighty drew to their judgment seats, all holy gods to hold council. They only do that after the web of weird starts creating fate. Sorry, so I'll stop editorializing. Let's go back a little bit. The Aesir met on the Idaswar, timbered lofty courts and altars. They founded forges, smithied gold, fashioned tongs and tempered tools. Gold table they joyfully played in the court, lacked not abundance of gold, until there came from the giant's home 3 very immoderate giant maids. The mighty drew to their judgment seats all holy gods to hold council. Who should fashion a host of dwarves from Brimer's blood and the limbs of the dead? There was Force Sucker, master of dwarves, as Durin knows. There were fashioned many humanoid dwarves from the earth, as Durin said. Wax and Wane, north and south, east and west, all thief, Coma, Biffer, Boffer, Bomber, Nore, An, Anar, I, Mead Witness, Path, Magus, Windelf, Thrain, Yearning, Longing, Wisdom, Color, Corpse, and New Advice. Slice and Wedge, Discovery, Nale, Hope and Will, Rooster, Sphere, Speedy, Antlered Fame and Lone. It is time the dwarves of Dvalin's kin be named up to Lofar the Handed, they who have struggled from the hall's stone foundations up to the ramparts. Clarifier, Cycler, Shaver, Channel, Sanctuary of Youth and Oak Shield Bearer, Fugitive, Frost, and Finder and Illusion. While ages endure, the long, long reach of Lofar's forebears shall be remembered. From one such train drew forth in the hall 3 Aesir, powerful, compassionate. They found on the earth the ash and the alder, of little power indeterminate. Odin gave them spirit, Honor discernment, Loder gave them blood and divine light. Okay? I mean, we read this stuff and we just read it and we think, oh, it's just, you got to be able to know what's being said here. You got to be able to follow what's being said. This is the difference between mythology, true mythology, and cute stories. You've got to put effort into reading this stuff, listening to it, because it teaches us something. So Odin is the result of humanoid, emotional, psychological experience of self-evolution. And when that self-evolution took place, because humans hadn't been created yet, there's nothing in here that tells us that the dwarves are physical beings. What we know is that the dwarves are humanoid and they are created from the life force energy of the universe, and they start as these big concepts like north, south, east, and west, and then they turn from being all thief and comatose, the unconscious, and then we get all the way to discovery and clarifier, cycler, channel of the divine, and then we get all the way up to Lofar the Handed. Now it has consciousness and self-awareness and can create. So this is one of the things, the dwarves create all of the magical things in the universe. They are creators. Lofar the Handed, he means he's got a hand, means he can now create. That's what all that stuff means. Odin is the end result of all of that. And the result of all of that, his first action is to create humans. To put the soul inside of a human, give them discernment, and give them lifeblood. Are you seeing what this is? Odin is the king of the gods because he is the only one that has worked and gone through all of the work to become self-aware, truly self-aware. If you really wanted the best translation for the name Odin, Woden, it would be self-aware. Enlightenment. Odin is enlightenment. He is the force of enlightenment, and that force sought to express itself in physical form through humans. That's why humans are man. There's no other being that walks around, no other animal on the planet that is divine mind. It is only humans. So we're either dwarves, which are not fully realized, and dwarves are emotions and human psychological instincts. And as we talked about in the previous myth, dragons are dwarves that are not human. Humans slay dragons, meaning they slay the reptilian brainstem, fear-based, lower vibrational actions. Okay? This came from me listening to this guy wanting to argue with me why he wanted to be a victim and why it didn't make any sense that you could take control over your world and make something of your world better than what it is. Why wouldn't you want that? I mean, I can come up with reasons why, but that doesn't make any sense to me. Why you would want to be a victim? Why you would go out of your way to convince yourself and argue with others why you're a victim? You can choose to be what you want, but you have to start with an assumption. If you choose to be like Odin, and we just take Odin's, his self-sacrifice on the Tree of Life, where he sacrificed himself to himself, sacrificed his little self to his big self. When he did that, he discovered the runes, the mysteries of the universe. Died to himself, and then created, and then saw the mysteries of the universe. Which is another way to talk about what we just saw in terms of the progression of the dwarves, the human psyche. When it finally gets to full self-awareness, you have Odin. You have that which is self-aware, the master of spiritual inspiration, Woden. Okay? I could go on and on and on. The more that I read the myth, I could go on, but I just wanted to focus on that. So, anyway, those are my ramblings for today, having to do with the questions of how did Odin become king of the gods? What are Odin's origins? We never hear. There's no, part in the myth where Odin is elected to be the king of the gods. And bear in mind that that's how, where kings and chiefs originally came from in ancient times, is that you didn't become king or chief, by rule of might, or by somebody just imposing it on you. It was the whole idea of democracy is a very ancient tribal Germanic concept, and chiefs were, you had to have the support of everybody. And you stop being somebody that helps the village, you won't be king for very long, or chief for very long. When I was training in West African, in the Yoruba drum tradition, one of the teachers, there was a song that we would play that was the sound of the king. the chief as he's walking in the village, and you can hear in the rhythm this big guy. Now, the Yoruba people, um, the kings were always heavy. They were heavy set. They had a lot of weight on them. Look, they ate a lot of food. And this was symbolic. If you were a king and you were skinny, it looked like you were poor because skinny people didn't have food. And this whole thing, listen, I'm typical, I'm made fairly typical, but, in our society, what's attractive is thin and svelte, and now we're getting more muscular, thin and svelte. But that is not what is attractive to a lot of other cultures. The Yoruba culture is no different. What's attractive to them is big. And the Yoruba drummers that I knew, they were attracted to big women. Women that I wouldn't have been attracted. They wanted the big ones because in their mind that represents wealth. It represents health. It represents having a lot of, if you're a big person, it means you got money. It means you've got resources. And my teacher, he was studying really hard in school and working 2 jobs. And one of his professors here in the U.S. said, "Oh, you look good. You're losing weight." And he said, "I almost cracked that guy over the skull because that's the worst thing you can say to a Yoruba man, is that you're losing weight. It means that you're poor." So the whole idea of the king having all of this weight and girth with him is important. And now I forgot what the reason. Why was I saying that? There was a reason for all that, and I can't remember what it was. Anyway, whatever I was going to say, it was going to be so brilliant and so profound that it was going to blow your mind, which is probably why I forgot what it was. Mercury is in retrograde after all. So anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about today because I'm starting to get a headache. It's been a long, intense day. neo.thunderwizard.com if you want to figure out how to not be a victim. Those 4 tools, especially the tools to master the matrix. Watch those videos. I should probably write a book about that. And then courses.thunderwizard.com, all of my books, all of my DVDs, all of my streaming courses, and astrology, blah, blah, blah. Subscribe, hit the bell button. I already told you that. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys later.